Welcome back, everybody. Today we are going over Video Diary 9. So, we're going to talk a bit about a month that I have been quite actually anticipating for some time. We're going to talk a bit about September today. And I titled this one Pressurized Chamber Echoed Through Weary Eyes. And if you are new to this channel, welcome. My name is Fabian, and we just talk about music here, the playlists I make in conjunction with them, and kind of compare them through how the months have been for me throughout the year of 2024. And they really have been acting as more of reflection pieces. So they've been kind of cool just to kind of like see what's been going on, what happened, and learn from ourselves. Hello, let's learn from ourselves. Um, September was quite a complicated month, and if you've been following these videos, you kind of maybe have known or pre-felt the weight of it. And I'm grateful for where I am right now in such a shorter amount of time than from where I was because I was so confused in September. And I'll explain a bit of that right now, I suppose. But to put it plainly, September was probably the most difficult month I have ever experienced um, in this year, particularly. And it was a bit of a letdown for me in the beginning. I intuitively had started feeling last year like, oh my God, something big is going to happen in September. And I really assumed it to be something that was going to be very positive or something very big or very, this grandeur of fall is what I was expecting almost. And this really big September is going to be even better than the summer was kind of vibe. But summer is summer and just happens so naturally all the time, and I felt like I put so much of this force onto what the fall was going to be. And so when it came around, it was actually that I was dealing with a lot of these um, more adult pressurized areas in my life that one was at fault to my own hand, and two, um, just things that I really needed to stop avoiding and taking care of. But I feel like when we do that, when we take care of the things that so stress us out or frustrate us, and most of the time they're literally the stupidest things ever to be worried about, because it is taken care of like this, um, do we then kind of can float around and ease? So it's like as long as you have this healthy balance of taking care of the shit that you actually need to take care of, you won't really feel as heavy up here. Um, and for me, for someone who's good with procrastination, um, and deals with things a lot better at the last minute for some reason, it kind of worked out. But I started September so beautiful and light, especially after coming off of August, which I know had its own little moments, but towards the end of the month, we really had a lot of these really enjoyable moments, just with our friends and out and about. It was really lovely. So I then started overdriving on the video diaries just because this has been my biggest creative endeavor next to making the playlist themselves. Um, every year I feel like we grow creatively with what we do and what our hands are. And I have always done monthly playlists over the course of the last couple of years. And last year I really did a word a month, but this year I challenged myself to longer, more poetic titles, as a way to challenge myself in words and to make things really feel more like a chapterhood of a sort. And I also didn't want to limit myself on whether the playlist was going to be a short playlist or a long playlist. I wanted to include as much of it as I could because for me, music is a way to reflect on moments in time, and it's remembering the day at the thrift shop or the movie you saw with your family and there was a song in there. Mm. So it was a lot of that. And yeah, in the beginning it was light. I was so energized and I had all of this ready to go. And I feel like the first part of our video diary series, what I did was set a deadline for myself for once. And then as I would take care of it, upload it, and start the next one. And I had to do it one at a time. And usually, what the plan is to get it all out at once so I can see this really big picture. But the biggest thing I've been working on has been breaking down the big picture and focusing on the steps because at the end of the day, maybe nobody else understands my bigger picture, but I do. I just need to be able to see the smaller steps too because it takes pressure off. And once I got that under control, and this is what I'm telling you in the last video, like I really enjoy growing with them and how I'm doing them. But now it's like I still do it one at a time, but I didn't set myself a deadline. I just want them to come out organically now. And so it's just as I have the free time, giving myself the time to take care of it. Um, and so we've learned along the way with these videos, which has been really nice and a very gratifying part of them. And yeah, so I'll leave it with that. But I burnt myself out so quickly in the beginning of September. I think creatively, like I spurted it all out. And then I overwhelmed myself with all of the other things that I was looking forward, you know, to doing. Um, and then I was burnt out by this like, okay, when is this grand excitement from September entering? And I don't know why I was like, oh, it has to be September. The fall is a long period of time, okay? I mean, it's not the longest, but it's a period of time. Like I needed to really relax. Um, but for some reason I was so anxious about everything and for someone who loves the fall, I don't know, it took me a while to realize that I was having a hard time with the sun going away again and all of this stuff. And time seems to pass by so much quicker the older we get. Um, but let's talk about it. So, the title itself was called Pressurized Chamber Echoed Through Weary Eyes. And this title came to me quite late, um, as did with a lot of the pulling it all together. It came all pretty last. Um, no, I want to say it was like halfway through. It honestly was when I was really feeling things. And it just felt like everything around me was this immense pressure. Um, and so we were in this chamber, and it says echoed through weary eyes because weary eyes is this like, you're not crying, but it's almost this sense of dread a bit. And so it was important for me that it was like things are being seen, but seen through this pressurized, elongated, echoed, drawn out thing. And like it's because that's really how September was and it felt. Um Longest month ever, biggest pondering month ever. Oh my god. We ponder all the time, but not quite like this. So that was a bit of like the influence from the title. But let's talk a little bit about the picture really quickly. The picture is this gorgeous shot of this train, and I really ended up coming to which one was it? There was healing properties of a blue lightning strike. So, since we were doing video diaries during the month of September, the one that struck me a lot that I kept going back to was the healing properties of a blue lightning strike, which was our May playlist. And all of my photos have been so organic as well. And May was the first month that I really took a more editing approach to it. I got this gorgeous shot of the clouds, right? We talked about it. But it was the first time I incorporated a subtle editing element. And so I wanted to do the same thing with our pressure playlist. And I took this inspiration specifically from Radiohead's OK Computer. We'll talk about the music in a second, but you know, OK Computer is ultimately this anxiety induced driven record, and it just on a digital front, like, and it's so insane. And so I really was taking this inspiration from this really pale looking thing, and I, got a shot of there's a bit of green in there, so it's still there. This element of green is still there, but the metal and everything, especially coming off of this the simplified constant city of steel and everything with August, it was like a nice way to balance both things out, and have these photos still remain cohesive, because even if you're not listening to the music, even if you're not paying attention to the titles, the journey along the way, the photos themselves tell a bit of a story. So um, just playing with cohesion, making sure that like this steel was incorporated, but it's pale, and slightly blurry, but you can still make things out. I don't know. I loved it, and it took me forever to be settled on a picture. Again, my nerves were all over the place. So was my brain, and this cover, it took me a while because I played around a lot with like different photo concepts, and again it felt like one of those things that like I just couldn't nail 100%, but then I got this. I was able to edit it a little bit the way I want, and all I did was play around with lighting and colors. Like, I didn't change what this photo is, what it was originally, but sometimes it's like those things need to be edited a bit to portray that full feeling of what you are trying to amplify, or you guys know what I mean. So ultimately, I love the decision I came to with this particular picture and photo. I think it really represents everything really well, and I think the only way that it can make even more sense is by starting the music. But before we do that, let's talk a bit about the blog portion. Fall vibe with a redirected warmth. Just like the wind, I wonder why she was calling from this month. It's been quiet on this front. There's this constant uneasiness that comes from this point, but starting from the square root of 1 might just be the answer. Along with it, some of the most beautiful music I have ever discovered, and everything I've needed. This one is very far from any of my recent playlists. The alternative sound ever so present, but its depth completely expanded. Something of a semi-experimental playlist, to inspired by Radiohead's OK Computer. This record that expanded on the idea of our anxieties. If my music and life has ever been so significantly paired, it's this. Life has been anxious, my mind ever so challenging to quiet down, and all the lessons simply threw out the window with realizations and self-awarenesses. We are nothing if not accountable for ourselves and our own self-sabotages. While the onset of this month really brought out my desire to achieve some long-awaited creative endeavors, it also brought out a very exhausted Fabian. I created so many lovely conversations. I've given a lot of positive side. It's proper love, but we are just human in such a digital world. So it's okay to ignore your lessons at times and not hide from everything inside of us. Where we crave to board a train and run away, we tend to find nothing but what we already knew, anyways. Music remains more than ever a real ass lifeline for me. A real ass lifeline for me. You might think it's a joke, but I know myself best, and I'm grateful for what hardships bring out the necessary awakenings. Reinforcements will come, but for now, let these sounds hold you, you and the monsters you carry too. Fabian Rockwell. With love. And I'm saying that out loud because it's true. With love. We I never had to hold myself higher this month. Like um being so down and out and just feeling knocked down after such a height that you reach. Like there are times that we just reach such a positive us that we want to stay at all the time, and it just isn't realistic. And so I was also burdened by this feeling of like, man, I was just feeling so good, and like, why do I feel like this now all of a sudden? But it is truly listening to your intuition and being accountable for yourself. Like I said, you can get on a train and run away, but like it's just honestly better if you stay where you are and fix the problems you have, so that if you decide to leave, it's not running away, it's more so the next thing. Are you having fun? He's so handsome. I love him. But yes, so that's our blog bit. And yeah, like this is something that I wrote at such a dark time, but I really tried keeping some positivity throughout the music. So I kind of want us to get into that already. There are no album specifics this month, surprisingly, because fall was a time that I really started to go back and reflect on things. And then I was building, there was a lot of singles and stuff that started to come through. Again, most of the playlists from here forward, I just grew a little bit more organically with. This intro is insane, and I had a one of my coolest friends sent me this one. This is called Nox Lumina. It is more of an instrumentation, and I really liked this elongated intro. That violin goes crazy for no reason. The violin in that really reminds me of like the Interstellar soundtrack. So again, it's like all of these spatial elements really coming through and shining in. Okay. Um, but yeah, so I ended up bringing in New Dawn Fades because I believe that around this time I was also doing some deep dives. When I tell you guys, like I exerted myself this month to achieve some projects that I was really wanting to do throughout the year, I did them. And so I want to say it was around this time that, like, so every year I get a lot of ideas. I feel like any creative watching kind of knows this. We have to write down our ideas so that we don't forget what they are, because sometimes you can't just work on something in the midst of, you know, other things. Like you might be in the shower, you might be just about to fall asleep, you might be at work. It can be any place. And so for me, over the last few years, I've scaled back in simplicity to be able to say, like, this is that small singular thing that I know I can realistically achieve this year. Last year was my poetry film that I spent all year on. This year I said I really want to focus and dive back into making YouTube content. Again, it's ultimately at the end of the day for me, but it is something I've been passionate about for years, and so I wanted to take a more serious approach with it. And along that journey, see my own progress, and not be so hypercritical or why isn't this working for me? You know what I'm saying, kind of thing, and more of just like I want to see my growth through this and through my hand. And I've seen that with my playlist. So I felt like the beginning of the year was really focusing on nailing that down, like those first 3 months, it was such a like a thing. I feel like once I got the hang of that, I was like, okay, I had some other things on my list that I know are achievable this year. And one of them was, doing the monthly videos. And I want to get on trend with it next year, where they really do roll out at the same time at the end of the year. But I also want to incorporate, like, there's a lot of little things I've done over the years within the years that I really want to like pull together. Um, and so this is just my way of throwing that out there for it to happen. This is me manifesting, guys. It's gonna happen. But yeah, so it's like now, and two, I'm like also, now that we're talking about this, realizing a bit that like from September forward, it's really felt like my months of taking my shit serious. Um, like I really for I real like we talk about ourselves, we do things well, but it was really the start of the application of things for me, and for my life. And I have always done that in like surface level things, but like it's not fair for me to be surface level with myself. I have to be real with myself. I have to do that shit myself. So this is where I really like was working on that, and put again the pressure thing, that there are things that I said I wanted to do that I wasn't doing, and I always hate feeling like I'm lying to myself about something. I hate lying in general, and that's a whole different story, but we'll talk about it another day. Um, and so, yeah, I think that's why I like overstimulated myself with not just video diaries, but deep dives as well. I had this grandeur marketing thing that I wanted to do, and it was like, it's not even about that. It's literally about just doing it. That's it. And it's such a like simplistic thought that like for grand thinkers, you don't think about it that way. And so it definitely like the last few months has been mentality shifting, but all for the best, I feel like. And yeah, so when I tell you like the confusion it brings in the beginning in September, it's just, yeah. But New Dawn Fades is a great song. I talked through the entire thing, so my apologies. But there's a whole Joy Division deep dive for you to watch, as I've been talking about, so you can hear my thoughts on them there. But then we have Flight of the Screaming Baboon by Automotion, and just what a cool title, right? With this one, I just love the instrumentation. Like, this band really knows how to work their elements to be the perfect heaviness to coast on, and just they they know how to fill it perfectly. They know how to carry a song. It's so good. Um, I seriously implore everybody to go listen to Automotion. But let's catch up with my thoughts real quick. And loved their cover for that little EP. They're so bold, and I just adore all the shapes in it. And what an odd title for a song, right? But like it, I don't know, like Flight of the Screaming Baboon. It's like a baboon will only react that way, out of like a flight or fight kind of thing, right? Or is that something I'm making up? Um, but I feel like it speaks to that feeling. And so September was also this big feeling of like fight or flight. And I don't think that I would want to be a runner from things. You know what I'm saying? Like, what is there to be so scared from? I don't know. But again, all these songs really speak to these anxious things. Um, and then we go into Fitter Happier, which is more of an interlude thing from Radiohead. And it's not something I would normally go back to, but I love the lyrical thing. Like this is a track that really reminds me of what Empire of the Sun did with what is the track called? Rhapsodize, right? Where they have a bit of a lyricism aspect to it, like where they're singing, but then they have this more robotic, computerized um, auto message, and that's what this whole song does. Not drinking too much. Regular exercise at the gym 3 days a week. Getting on better with your associate employee contemporaries at ease. It's poetry. So yeah, it's and I feel like the message actually has a more heavier weight to it, right? Because it's this very real slap in the face, and it also shows that since the 90s, nothing has fucking changed. Like nothing has fucking changed. It is unbelievable the weight of things that music, especially I feel like the 60s, like the root of music up until very recently, I feel like there is such an authenticity with music, and I feel like I find it a lot in some of the more late 80s 90s records, and with Radiohead, especially the 2000s, and we can relate to the early 2000s the most because it was the start of this digital age, and we had no idea that it was going to spiral into where we are now. um and that's that, like, most people don't actually see how far technology actually has come. Um, and so this record itself, Radiohead's, has really sat with me throughout the year, especially since we've done the deep dive. Um, I just keep going back to it. Like, there is so much rawness in it, and just it's just unbelievable. Like, our world has not changed for shit, and we can still really heavily relate to everything that is being talked about, all these anxieties, because if anything, they've gotten worse, and have been more heightened. I love the constant ringing in the background of that, and then how it fades out as well. Um, but yeah, we can't do another deep dive on that specific thing, but I felt like the message in Fitter Happier was so important and just spoke. This fifth song after our first four, which I told you guys before is like a thing that kind of started happening. I really put in like what the record was gonna, or the record, Jesus Christ, what the playlist I compiled would be like throughout everything. This took such a positive spin, and it just starts to add a lot more of those instruments we need, you guys, like throughout. When I tell you guys that, like, the warmth in this playlist is there, like, come on, you guys have to feel good after that. This is another very warm song. We can definitely talk a bit through this one, but yeah. So the last track is called "Alien Love Call," and it is by Turnstile. A couple of features, but I just love the transitions in it. It just becomes this very beautiful, warm morning light feeling. And I feel like, especially after all the heaviness you feel in the first four tracks, you need the immediate switch up. And I'm really enjoying this lately, where that last super heavy thing, the next thing is really light, just because sometimes you need it to pick you back up, you know? But there's things that, like, you need to feel the anxiousness, the frustration, the sadness, essentially, and then you need to feel the absolute warmth, all the love. And that's how that song feels for me. It's like a place of love. So, and then this coming off right after it, so good. But this was still September. So we go into Lucky by Radiohead, which is kind of the first track that really represents. And this record was spread out through the month. Oh, I would have died to see Radiohead live. Um, it was good to like incorporate this lighter song from Radiohead, which really isn't, but it's like a softer introduction. And then I just love how they go off at the end, um, pulling everything together, those strings, the fucking electric guitar, like the nice little whammy shred. It's so it's so well done. They do everything so well crafted. Um, it just, yeah, I don't know. And I feel like people think that's like a really sad thing, but it just isn't. Um, but yeah, we go into some more auto motion. I feel like they balanced each other out this kind of like month. It also, and I didn't really talk about this before, but needed a lot of fall specific sounds. And I like how disruptive this one is, but clean. You know, like, it was never my intention to find new artists that I really enjoyed, but like there is such an excitement in me to like have found these bands, and like now I can be excited about seeing them live at some point. That kind of trails off into Sex and Rage by Chaparral, which is a duo by two lovers, Zeladay and Jesse Woods. They have been in a relationship for a while. I haven't followed it. I respect everyone's loves, but they really made their own artist out of each other, and it's a bit more country influenced. But I loved this one. Like, you can feel their love, and so like it pulls that back in a little bit. Um, and it feels like an older, rich song, like timeless, you know. Um, I was seeing Kings of Leon this month, so I was re-going through some of their records, and I put this song On Call by them. It just also feeds into that nostalgia factor. So be there, one and all. Oh, be there, all when I fall to pieces. I'll be there waiting. Nude by Radiohead. We're gonna have to do an In Rainbows video one day, just because those two records are like hand in hand some of their best works. Ready? You could sit there all day. Nude by Radiohead. Oof, that's a song. That's a song. Like, I understand why when I tell people, like, oh, I'm listening to Radiohead a lot this year, they're like, oof, rough year, huh? And it's like, not really. It's more like, this is beautiful fucking music, and this is what music was made for. And yeah, I'm listening to a shit ton of Radiohead because I've been missing out on them, and then it just so happens that, yeah, it correlates with my life. But it's that I look at things a lot differently. Like, I like to take from the sadness and learn from it and grow from it. And I'm always on a mission to be my next best self, no matter what it takes. And that might seem selfish to some people, but to me, it's love. It's me pouring love back into myself. And music like this is what helps me find that. And it doesn't make me sad. It doesn't mean I'm even in a sad mood. It's just that it's such beautiful music and I actually feel something real from it versus all this other bullshit. Like, come on. Um, but after something heavy like that, I definitely put in Mirror Du by Paradise. Just a nice little uplifting instrumental, you know. You know, something just very nice. Sometimes you need that instrumentation. Um, then I had Beyond Love in here from Beach House, you know. This song Dreamweavers. I think this one found me, like, really. And I listened to the little project, but this one stuck out with me. And a lot of the songs this month were things that I felt like I needed to keep close to home and, like, just pay attention to that thing for now. I can always go back whenever I choose, you know. But yeah, this one was really nice. Also has warmth and, like, a playful instrumentation. I feel like it's very like how the intro is, but like on a different scale, if that makes sense. Subterranean Homesick Alien kind of spoke to all of these spatial elements that we've been playing around with, pulling things in together. My house is not a home. This one really. This man has a voice. But it went into this more alternative, angsty vibe. Like this song called Don't by Honey Glaze. Such important feminine rage. I think y'all should just check that one out. This one too loud. There's so many good things. Climbing up the walls, we can't even get into it. More beach house. So it was a lot of like sounds pulling in from each other and having these like different segments. Things that were a little bit more instrumental, things that went more on an angsty moment. Suburban house, this song by Holly McVie featuring Lana is so beautiful. And it just, yeah, that voice. So beautiful. Especially coming off all of this femininity, it kind of was needed. Model, actress, whatever by Suki Waterhouse. A literal child of Lana. Like in the year of Children of Lana, she is one of them. And this song just, I haven't heard a song like this that like carried me in so long. And I'm sure for being it, this is my introduction to Suki Waterhouse. Let me start there, okay? Um, we go into Exit Music for a Film by Radiohead. It's another very slow build song, and it just one of my favorites. Mm. Then I showed some Foster People Paradise State of Mind. That's when I really got attached to that song, and it like started to really strike me. And it also helped uplift the mood as well. Um, and then we go into this more electronic, you know, dark electronica moment with Eusexual by Thicka Twigs. I'm really excited for her and what her new project is going to be because she's saying it's more of like a lifestyle, like you live Eusexual. Not to mention all of these very alien-esque, you know, aesthetics and like shapes. Like I love it. First of all, I love the cover for the single specifically of Eusexual. She sounds beautiful, and I'm there. That's all I will say. But it does. It goes into this very dancey element with some Jamie XX who released a cool album. The Weekend song "Dancing in the Flames." It's his vibe lately. And then I, Under the Moon by 070 Shake added some grit, to this playlist to really hold on to. um, but yeah, these last few tracks just kind of incorporate like other things, and we pulled in some more Joy Division with Shadow Play. I love the Killers version of the song, but it was really nice to have the original version. And again, it has more of that grit that you would want, I don't know, from the rest of this playlist, because the elements of dance and like the more sultry feminine, pull you away from it a little bit, but it's supposed to be this like more pinky feeling within all of this gray and white, and steel. Um, so I like this playlist because it's a very good balance of the feminine and the masculine. And it does end with some more Radiohead and Automotion. So, like, if you do like the vibe of what you're hearing, definitely check it out. Um, but if not, kind of thanks for listening so far. I know, like, I tend to rush things a little bit towards the end here, but I don't like things to be dragged out too long now. And I feel like you guys get the vibe with this one. It is a bit of a bummer, so I don't want it to be a bummer for everyone else. But there's a lot of really good things here, good loving moments, and I really feel like it spoke to that like part of me that is fighting through will fight through everything regardless. Um, and yeah, I just I don't know. Again, it's a very big compilation of like things that have been from here and there, from the past and the now. Um, it was where a lot of the music I would go to look for reflection from past months as well, because I like to think about those things as well. And yeah, really more or less it was just this anxious concept made with love. So, hope that makes sense. I cannot wait to talk about the rest of the months coming up just because we're getting so close to the end, and like now I'm going to be caught up with where I want to be. Um, and October is definitely something to talk about for y'all. And November was very beautiful. I really liked November. I think I may have accidentally made one of my favorite playlists ever, but I like the route that the fall playlists take in just like their complete different direction. Like when I say that, like sounds here found me that like I have never been happier to find. It just like continued and progresses through the rest of fall. Um, with where I want like the maturity in my music to be at, I feel like I finally have it. Um, but thank you guys for sitting through me with this conversation. I feel like I definitely was realizing a lot more things on my own too. That there are a lot of things that I said I felt like I was lying to myself about, but actually, with where I feel right now, I worked on more things than I can even count, and I feel like I have to celebrate those wins. So, if you've been here with me, thank you for that. You're part of it. And if you're new, welcome to the club, welcome to the vibe. But I love y'all, and I'll see you another day. Bye.